Hello, 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 and welcome back to an all new episode on the Desensitized podcast. As always, my name is Darius Cook, and I'm joined, as always, by the lovely Dan Cast. Cast, how you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Just enjoying the day off. Just sitting, relaxing, and shooting the podcast.
That's great. I can see your day off glow. It's radiating from here. I might have to get some sunglasses, in fact. But it's nice to see your face. We haven't recorded in a little bit, so it's lovely to have you back here. For today's episode, I want to break down some pop culture and anime news that has released just this week. And then I want to get into some topics that I have prepared that I want to get your opinion on. But for
Okay.
now, first thing in anime news. Did you hear that My Hero Academia, they announced that their final chapter date is coming up soon here on January 5th will be the final chapter of My Hero Academia.
I think I did, like, briefly see that, which is kind of crazy that it's finally ending. Um, but I haven't read the manga, so obviously I don't know what's happening or what's going to happen.
Yeah, MHA is the only manga I do personally keep up with nowadays. It's definitely interesting to see. They already finished the story. The main story has ended. The main battle has ended. For the last couple of weeks, we've been in kind of a prologue, kind of
Mm,
around the ends of the story.
okay.
But it is interesting to see that while the anime, which maybe we could talk about later, but the anime right now is embarking on its final arc, whereas the manga is wrapping it all up right now. Now, the manga has been on this arc for like over a year now, so in terms of seasons, I don't know how much that leaves to go for MHA, but I do think it's definitely interesting that these things are kind of happening at the same time, the start of one and the end of another.
Yeah, it is kind of insane, especially like thinking how sometimes like the animes will catch up to the manga, and
Hmm.
then it creates this whole other set of issues. I was gonna ask, with My Hero specifically, I was just thinking about this. So obviously in the very beginning, you hear him speaking Deku, and then he says, this is the story of how I became the greatest hero. How do you feel about like shows, movies, whatever, kind of, I don't want to say like spoiling it, but like now as you watch the show, you're just kind of assuming that he's never really gonna like die or lose. Obviously, it's kind of open ended what you can be a hero, like he could be a martyr or whatever. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. At this point, I think that it's a pretty tired trope. Like with that level of narration, maybe if they gave the narrator's voice like a different voice, like an old man voice,
Yeah,
it was narrating this is the story of how Deku became the greatest hero, there'd be some ambiguity as to, who you're supposed to be listening to.
yeah,
And I don't think it would sacrifice any of like the narrative weight of Deku being the main character just to have, make it vague who's telling the story. Is it Bakugo telling the story way from down the line? Is it All Might telling the story? Is it Kota, the boy that is his biggest fan that he saved? There's options to get around that.
for sure.
Specifically in the case of MHA, I think it was season 5 where he like updated the narration. He said, and like from this point moving forward, he's like, "This is the story of how we became the greatest hero."
Mm,
I remember that happening in the manga, and I'm pretty sure it happened in the anime as well. It was like this weird, distinctive line in the sand where like Bakugo and Todoroki had like caught up with him, even with his new powers, and he like reframed the story almost a little bit. That leaves like a little bit of like open endedness as to like
yeah,
what the game would be.
yeah. Either that was like this is like him speaking like prior to all the events, like just him having like a childhood dream. It's not like him in the future talking back, reminiscing on it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that as you were talking about MHA and want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I will say, the MHA manga coming to a close. It's kind of the end of a chapter. I remember when we were just graduating high school and the ending of Naruto had just came out, and everyone was wondering what would take its place. I don't know if MHA ever was its true successor, but that was around the same time that MHA anime was coming out. And here
Mm-hmm.
we are, not fully a decade later, but quite some time later, and the anime is not coming to a close, but the manga is. So that's kind of a bookend moment. So I thought it was worth tipping our hat to.
Yeah, and I mean everybody knows Boruto isn't a good successor, so
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get an MHA spinoff that immediately starts at the end of this.
We'll
They are
see.
hotels. All right, all right. Next up on anime news, there's an announcement. Actually, this is more of a rumor at this point. So there's talks for Demon Slayer's final arc to be split into three movies, into like a trilogy movie thing. This would be a little bit separate from the Demon Slayer movies we've already gotten, just because these three movies would directly lead into one another,
Yeah.
be filmed as a trilogy specifically. How would you feel about this cast? Do you want to see Demon Slayer finish its run in theaters, or take more of an anime season approach to it?
Um. So is this like what arc are we in currently? Like what season is going? Like is this the second to last arc or?
So, if I'm correct, and I did read some of the Demon Slayer manga, not all of it, but I am a little bit further ahead than the anime right now. However, if I am correct, then this would be essentially the final season, setting up three movies.
Okay. I think. I mean, depending on the time frame, I think 3 movies is a little excessive. It feels like they are trying to cash in. Like I
Hmm.
don't know. Like I have to go to the movie theater 3 separate times to
Hmm.
get the story, to get to the end of the story that has been airing, you know, streaming. I feel like it's a little crazy. I think you're better off just ending it with one movie. I'm not a big fan of the whole 3 movies thing, but I mean, if it means that they can, up the production and make it even better, then I guess. But I don't know if I'll want to go to the theater 3 times for that.
Yeah, I feel like the closest comp to this would be the Attack on Titan ending, right? Like, that wasn't necessarily announced in the same way that it was going to be split into like a three movie arc
Yeah,
structure. And didn't know exactly like how it was being delivered as it was coming out. But that's kind of the closest thing to it. Obviously, I don't think the Attack on Titan experiment was necessarily a good. Like, if it was going to
no,
be anything like that, I wouldn't feel positive about that.
no,
But we are to if we are to assume that this is going to be more grandiose than what we've seen in the past, and I think Demon Slayer is the right show to run this experiment on. It already has a history of being of strong theatrical
yeah,
success. And it's interesting this transition. Anime movies have been out for a very long time, and this is going to get into um, one of the topics I've prepared for later. But I remember being 8 years old watching a Naruto movie in theaters. Bleach movies, Full Metal Alchemist, theatrical releases of anime have happened for a long time, but it's a new trend for what happens in the theater to be direct canon to the main
yeah,
story. And especially on the scale of what Demon Slayer is trying to do now is end its series in a theatrical form. Very interesting approach. I'm pretty excited for it. I think, I don't know if it'll land on its feet necessarily, but again, I do think Demon Slayer is the right show to try this for.
I mean, it's gonna do numbers. People are gonna go into theaters.
I feel like it's better for the fans that are watching it as everything's released than it will be for people that watch it later on. And then on Crunchyroll, it'll just be, I'm assuming they'll split the movie up into episodes essentially, for fans that discover the show later on. I think it'll be weirder for them to watch it and then get to three movies, but for us, ride or dies, I think it'll be well worth watching in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll definitely watch it. I don't know if maybe I'll wait till after you know it's kind of on streaming sites. Um, I'll probably see a couple of them, but I don't know if I'll see all three. But as long as they don't go out like AOT, where they just kill all their hype by like promising, oh, last season, final season part two, final season part three, final season movie part one. Like, as long as you're not doing that, like they really set the bar low.
Yeah, we'll see. And if our theory is correct here that this season will kind of lead into the movies, we'll see how they approach this anime season guarding hype for that event. So
Yeah.
we'll see how. All right. And for my next bit of newscast, Blue Lock season 2 got announced. It's coming out on October 5th.
Wait,
It's not far away.
that's kind of crazy. Isn't a movie coming out? Well, didn't a movie already drop in Japan?
There's a movie that dropped for Blue Lock. Are you kidding me?
Yes. I'm like 90% sure. Yeah,
Why?
June 28th, 2024. I think it comes to theaters here.
June 28th. Today's June 26th.
It's already in a theater right now.
What the heck? I'm giving news about Blue Lock season 2, and I could be in the theater watching a Blue Lock movie right now. That's what you're telling
So I guess it's like, ow, this is like sick news for you because you just found out.
me. This is breaking news on the scene. Cass has just broke the news that Blue Lock has a movie in theaters right now, showing domestically. I think that means we got to watch it ASAP and come do a review of it, right?
For sure. And like, Blue Lock's a series that I really like, so I would love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, my news was just that Blue Lock season 2 returns on October 5th, which is just a few months away. But I had no idea that I'd be seeing a movie already in theaters this summer as well. As far as getting content for an anime, Blue Lock is really delivering. The anime was just over a year ago. We have a movie right now, and just in the fall, we'll be getting season 2. That's awesome. I love Blue Lock. We could do a whole Blue Lock episode.
Oh, for sure. It's like the right mix of like a sport anime that's like, um, it's not super realistic, but like it's cool enough to where like you can do all the crazy extra stuff and it makes sense. Not like a super realistic world, but like they low key just have superpowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
no, they did envelope a little bit. I honestly, Blue Lock is one of my favorite sports animes. I think that Haikyuu is still number one for me, and I'm a big sports anime fan. I have at least 15 I've seen, so we could do a whole ranking on sports anime, which I actually would love to do. But Blue Lock, I mean, as seasons come out, I think it's gonna really contend for that number one spot for me because it's so much fun as an anime.
mm,
Every episode is just so hype, and I find myself enjoying it so much.
yeah, my one gripe with it, I think, is that I mean, I'm sure it's a product like a financial thing that like when they're doing the full field shots and you
Mhm.
see like the CGI running, like I wish they could do that a little bit better. But like when you're doing the close ups and everything, it looks great. But um, hopefully with the
Yeah,
movie, yeah, it's kind of weird. It doesn't look very natural. Like it's kind of like how Full Table with Demon Slayer, like they introduce the CGI, but it's meshed in so well that you wouldn't even really notice it most of the time, unless you're really looking.
yeah, I'd say that's the universal flaw of a Blue Lock, but I'm willing to look past it.
Yeah, and I do.
Yeah. All right. So this is really going to lead nicely, even better than I thought before, into my main topic, which is I want to discuss anime and the movie industry as a whole. What I want to present to you is this question: can anime save the movie industry? Because I've done some research and I want to make an argument that anime does have the potential to save the movie industry. As mentioned before, there's a long history of theatrical releases for anime. You know, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, Inuyasha, Fullmetal Alchemist. These are classic animes that all have theatrical releases, not even including their live action
Mm-hmm.
adaptation, just the direct anime getting a movie added to their lineup. And then more recently, we've had Demon Slayer movies, JJK movie, the Haikyuu movie was in theaters as well. Um, and we have Chainsaw Man coming soon, and the Blue Lock movie in theaters. So right now, anime in theaters is definitely having a moment. Uh, the One Piece movie last year broke a lot of records. Actually, for that was like one of the biggest movies released in the last 5 years, let alone anime. So, I want to make an argument that anime can save the movie industry. Cass, what are your immediate reactions to that?
Um, Honestly, I would agree because one, anime is becoming a lot more normalized. Like we've talked about before, like when we were younger in middle school, even like high school, like it was kind of taboo to talk about. Like you're immediately labeled as like a dork if you're like, oh, I watch animes. It's like a cardinal sin to talk about. So that on top of like, it feels like I don't know. You can name like a random series that like movie series that isn't like super popular. Like people aren't out there buying a ton of like merch and stuff like that for it. Like with anime, people are buying the mangas, figurines. Like there's so many apparel brands now that are centered around anime. Um, just people love anime. They'll spend a lot of money on it. It's proven, and I feel like a lot of theatrical releases, at least in Japan, have broken records for movies like in general. You know what I mean? So I totally see that happening.
Yeah, 100%. It's only getting more and more trendy
Yeah.
to anime, and I think, I haven't seen the anime industry turn to the point where they start getting like influencers to promote their movies.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't turn happen yet, but I think that's something that we can expect to happen, especially with the announcements of like these Demon Slayer movies that are coming out that are really popular. You could see influencers getting in on this and maybe doing some fan events to promote it even more. Because I will say, I did some research. I do have some numbers here, and while these anime movies they're profitable, they are not they pale in comparison to regular like what a regular live action theatrical success looks
Mm-hmm.
like. So there is definitely still room to grow there before they can necessarily carry the movie industry on their backs. That being said, though, the Haikyuu movie that just came out. Now, I wasn't expecting this to do crazy numbers. It is a volleyball anime, but the fact that they had announced two movies, I thought that it was going to be successful. When I went to see that movie in theaters, I was the only person in the entire theater. So I guess if that was an indicator, I could have seen this coming. The Haikyuu movie made $6 million domestically. So for all of US, it made $6 million, which really isn't a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even beyond that, if you look at the worldwide numbers, it made $82 million, which might sound good, but again, it's really not great. Um, that being said, the U.S. market, which is kind of the market that I'm referring to here when I'm talking about anime saving the movie industry, did make up for about 13% of its overall sales. So if you look at it in a percentage wise of the money available on the table, it's not that bad just from the U.S. But when you compare it to something like Demon Slayer, which is kind of the industry leader when it comes to anime movies, they made 49 million domestically as
Mm.
opposed to IQ 6, and worldwide they made 403 million. The percentage there difference of their domestic sales versus their overall sales is 12% for Demon Slayer. So in both cases, I think you can make a strong argument that there is a consistent ratio of U.S. viewers that will show up to the theater for anime, and then depending on the popularity of that
Yeah.
anime, you can make no money.
You also have to think like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel as though when a lot of animes come to theaters, they have um, a lot more limited showings. Obviously, for example, something that doesn't do it a lot of justice, there's the sub and dub option. So even if there is a lot of showings, like they're already split in half, and people are either going to go to one or the other. So like, it's not as readily available for their schedule. So like, a lot of people will probably skip out on it. Um,
It's a good point.
and I think with it typically releasing in Japan first, um, there's a lot more time for it to be leaked before it actually reaches the US. So there's definitely been some anime movies that I have watched before they even hit the theaters here. So obviously the
You're
subbing is like pretty
a really
bad.
big fan, aren't you?
What?
You're a really big One Piece fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I've seen
You want
every
to be a
episode.
pirate so bad.
Yeah, except I don't do that. That's illegal.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind. I mean, the Haikyuu movie released in Japan like 3 months before it did here, and I didn't try to find it, but I'm kind of surprised it didn't find its way in front of me. It's especially in 2024. If you have a movie releasing months ahead of time in Japan before you release it here, of course people are going to get their hands on it. I mean, hello. Um, and I also don't understand. I wonder what the legality is there. I want to get a lawyer on the podcast to explain to me why there's these large windows in between their releases, especially when there's the sub release. You think maybe you could do a re-release in America when the dubbing comes out if that's what they're waiting for, but it doesn't even take that long to dub. So I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole like contracts and all that stuff that you have to file. Then you have to ship the actual product, distribute it to all the, because I don't think they're just like emailing it to the movie theaters. I think they're probably actually bringing like the roll or something physical probably that they have to distribute. They have to figure out what movie theaters want to show it, and then
I
from
think
there,
it's been pretty old school, man. I think it is emailed. I'm going to be honest.
I don't know. It
People
seems,
people get screeners via email all the
I
time.
guess
It's not.
so, but it just feels like there's so much room for error when there's like when there's emails being sent. Someone can intercept
Uh,
them or.
Maybe I'll do some research on this and get back to it on another episode and call it news, kind of breaking down why this stuff happens. Because even right when a movie releases here in America, there is a difference between when it released in Japan. Sometimes a domestic movie will release in Japan even first. That happens sometimes, but the difference is only by a couple weeks. It's never months apart,
Mm,
and it's for the exact reason. It's for pirating, and you think
yeah,
anime studio money wise, pirating was people love to pirate anime, so you think they'd be even more on top of it. But
for sure.
hopefully, I can do some research on that and get back and give a succinct answer on that. That being said, okay, so let's assume that anime movies are the future. Is there an anime that you want to see hit the big screen? Now, we already, the anime industry, we've got Chainsaw Man coming. We talked about Demon Slayer. We just had the Haikyuu movie. We got the Blue Lock movie out right now. So we got sports and shonen anime are getting that treatment. Is there any other kind of anime on your mind that you think deserves to make the jump?
One that like hasn't had a theatrical release, or one that already has.
I would say hasn't.
Okay.
And I've got a couple ideas.
Hmm. I mean, I don't think there's much more content for it, but I would have loved to see like a Mob Psycho movie. I
Dude,
love Mob
I
Psycho.
the final season of Mob Psycho. I love the final season of Mob Psycho. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't necessarily trade it for a movie, but I think you could have cut out a lot of the slice of life episodes and made it a movie.
Yeah.
It could totally have been a movie.
Yeah, I think that final season they I don't even think there was that many chapters left. So I think they probably tried to fluff it up.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean the final fight. I mean every fight in Mob Psycho is like some of my favorite fights I've ever seen. But the final season in particular looked so pretty that you could have easily put some more money into that and thrown it up on the big screen. I mean
Hmm.
that wouldn't. And I think the writing team is so funny for Mob Psycho that they would have thrown in some great dialogue for the big screen.
Yeah, and like I would have said Chainsaw Man, but they're already doing it. Honestly, I mean, not even necessarily anime, but like I wouldn't hate like instead. Well, pair it along with the season because I would love a season. But Arcane, if they did a movie release, I would totally go there and watch that. Like they would probably knock it out of the park.
They should. They should. Arcane feels right for a movie.
Yeah, and the studio that made Arcane, not like Riot Games, but the studio they commissioned to make it is making another show right now. Um, I think it's about Greek gods or something like that, in some sort of like school or something like that.
So it's not a spinoff of Arcane.
Mm-mm. I think
I
what?
I heard that after this season of Arcane, season two is going to wrap up season one,
Mm-hmm.
but then going to keep telling stories in the League of Legends universe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like as far as like Jinx, Vi, Caitlyn, all of them, I think they're wrapping that up. So it'll be. I mean, they've got damn near 200 champions now, so there's so much ways they can go. But yeah, I think they'll probably commission another company because I can't imagine um, that production studio is gonna make their own original one and the next season as well.
Yeah, yeah. And season one of Arcane already could have been two movies. I mean, realistically, it's not. There's not that many episodes, so season one was like two really long movies, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And you could put that in theaters, and I wouldn't have even blinked. Like it would have been great. All right, hear me out. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I think, could have a movie. Now, I don't know exactly where the manga goes, but from what I've heard, and you've teased me a little bit that the story gets larger scale and starts incorporating elements of previous seasons and stuff like that, depending on where the story goes, I think there's definitely a world where you could have a season that sets up a big battle and then have a movie that, assuming that the plot could incorporate things from the past and maybe bring some characters back together on screen and give some fan service in that direction. I think that it would knock it out of the park if there's a way that you could make reference to all the different JoJo's that you've had over time and some kind of big spectacle battle. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like the referencing older things, I think it's just because like, well, I guess it's kind of already talked about in part six at the end. The timeline resets, so
Right.
like, as far as like you'll see the same characters, but they're vastly different, and it's also like different timelines. The um, the series, the Thus Spoke Rohan, they could have turned like those like I don't know how many episodes it was, like 4 or 5 episodes, into just a movie of just like um, all his occurrences and stuff like that. That could have fit in the time of a movie, but I mean they
True.
just did a short release.
True. So maybe the plot doesn't work itself super well for JoJo's, but I would still love to just see a
I
bit.
look, I love JoJo's. I would go see any movie they shot out.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I don't know if I have any other anime that come to mind. I feel like they have already adapted a lot of the larger ones. I mean, get us a couple of years down the road, or maybe who knows what the plot is like for Kaiju number 8. But that is a
Kaiju
show
could
that
be good, yeah.
easily lend itself to a movie later on.
One
You know,
Punch
one,
Man.
one Kaiju battle could take the place of a whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, same thing with One Punch Man. I think you could have those crazy cinematic fights and just have that take up an entire movie. I think it'd be pretty easy. I mean, I know, he fights someone for pretty long. I mean, you could do it with JJK too. I mean, spoiler warning that it seems like a lot of people are fighting Sukuna, and
Hmm.
it's a very long, drawn out fight. I'm sure you could just turn that into a movie,
Sure. Yeah.
but I don't know. They might.
They probably will.
Yeah,
On it.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's it for the movie corner of this episode. One last thing I want to discuss. I just kind of want to shout out uh, what the state of pop culture, geek, and anime, everything that's happening right now in summer of 2024. So all at the same time, I'll start with the anime because that's what we talk about here. We've got My Hero Academia is back. We've
Mm-hmm.
got Demon Slayer. We have the other anime we've been talking about, Kaiju number 8, Windbreaker. It's been a great season for anime. But on top of all of that, we have House of the Dragons releasing week to week right now. We have Star Wars: The Acolyte, which is a very divisive show, but I will stand on business saying that it's freaking good.
Really.
Uh, We've got Doctor Who is releasing week to week, and The Boys. These are major fandoms that are major franchises that have been around for a long time at this point. That are all releasing consistent content, like seasons of into their run of content right now. And I just, from one geek to another, I just want to celebrate what a time it is to be alive.
It is. It is pretty crazy. I think. Yeah, a lot of companies are also realizing how much profit they can make through like the more geeky shows. They have such a cult following. I mean, Star Wars is obvious, but you know, they've had one of the biggest fandoms forever. But yeah, in terms of all the other stuff like Doctor Who, you wouldn't really think Doctor Who would need to come back. You know what I mean? Uh, but I didn't even know they had a show.
Doctor Who's been running strong.
No, I
Yeah,
know. I didn't even know that they, were still pumping out shows or episodes or anything.
yeah. Have you ever seen Sex Education?
No, I don't think so.
There's an actor on that show who's playing the current Doctor, but if
Mm.
you don't watch, that'll mean nothing to you.
I
I
mean,
didn't think you watch Doctor Who, or else I can get into that. But I don't. I didn't think you did.
the guy who did Doctor Who is on House of the Dragons. So
Oh, you're talking about Matt Smith?
Matt Smith, yeah.
Yeah, that's some good interconnectivity. And Will you make this commitment to our podcast listener? Will you watch Acolyte so we can review it?
Uh,
You've
yeah,
got you've got 2 weeks.
I guess I could. From what I've seen online, there's lot of varying opinions, and a lot of them are
Don't
not great.
don't believe the hate. Episode 4, no, episode 5 is the episode that came out last night. My favorite action sequence in all of Star Wars. And
Interesting.
I think people are going to agree with me. The episode came out last night, so I haven't seen what the general reception is, but I thought it was amazing. I'm an Acolyte defender.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've had very little faith in Star Wars and Marvel as a whole ever since Disney acquired it and just started like just milking them dry, just dumping out whatever information, Uh, so I mean, yeah, I guess I'll give it a go. I haven't seen a lot of great things about it, but maybe a lot of people are just jaded and not willing to give it a chance.
Yeah, for good reason. I mean, if you go to my podcast feed, I've reviewed every live action Star Wars show that's come out, and I don't have a positive review for most of them. That being said, there's a few gems in the last few years that have released with the new age Star Wars, and I'm here for it. I'll argue to my dying breath about the good of Star Wars, but I will not ignore how bad some of the contributions have been as well.
Yeah.
All right. I'd say that's probably it for this episode. It was a nice little news catch up, roundup of some topics around the anime space.
Yes.
Coming, we're on episode 11 of a lot of animes of the season, so a lot of them will be coming to a close. So I believe you and I will be getting together to do some reviews on some of the animes of the season and try to determine which anime was the anime of the season.
Yeah, and I'm really sad that this anime season is going to be ending so soon. It's so good. I've finally got like I feel like I've had the past few seasons. I've maybe watching one show during it, or like not even anything. So like to have multiple shows that I'm watching currently, I'm like, this is awesome. I've got like so many different things to look forward to like throughout the week. This is sick. So I'm sad it's ending, but um, I'm happy to have experienced it.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, next anime season isn't going to have much to offer as well. We'll be carrying over with Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia, but besides that, there's not going to be too many big contenders until the fall season when Deran Dandan comes out, or however you
Dude,
call it.
yeah, I'm excited for that one.
And there'll be a few other gems in that season as well. It'll
Yeah,
be a good one.
I think there's a couple things on my radar. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think I've seen a few things that were mildly interesting. Um, I mean, that new, you played golf for the first time. There's a golf anime coming out, and
I am going to be all over that. I'm not going
I'll
to
watch
lie.
it. I don't know how it'll go, but I'm
My,
interested.
I've been proven wrong with sports anime so many times. I started sports anime and I don't know how they could possibly make the premise interesting.
Yeah,
But for tennis, for sumo wrestling, ping pong, soccer, everything, I've been proven wrong, and they've ended up having some of the richest stories at the center of what otherwise seems like a boring premise of the sport.
the sumo wrestling one. That's a throwback. I don't think I ever finished it. It was good though. I forgot what
I
it was
like
called.
it. It's oh, I don't know either. It was a Japanese name. Did you ever watch Yaomeshi Grand Pedal?
The bike one?
Yeah, it's
No.
like a cycling sport, team sport anime. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember you used to talk about it a lot. No, I never watched it. The only other sports anime that I've like seen a little bit of, I think, is this is a throwback. Maybe like Prince of Tennis back when I was a kid.
no, no, you've seen Ping Pong the animation
Ping
too.
Pong the animation, that too. Yeah, that's a good
How
one.
about Kuroko no Basketball?
I didn't see that. I know it's good. I know a lot of people say it's one of the best sports animes, but I've just never seen it.
What about Slam Dunk?
I haven't seen any basketball animes. I can't think for the life of me of another sports anime I've seen besides Haikyuu, Blue
I,
Lock.
I This is another one. What about Free, the one about swimming?
No,
Okay, what about Yuri on Ice? I know you
no,
watched that.
I didn't watch that.
Also, as I'm saying this, I'm noticing that and this might be a whole discussion one day. The overlap between sports anime and gay anime is very strong. There's boy on boy undertones in every anime I just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean Haikyuu.
Watch Night in the Area,
No,
soccer anime. You're missing out.
I there's I wanted a soccer anime for so long, and I think that's why I like Blue Lock. I feel like a lot of them, anytime I've seen a couple episodes, didn't really capture the essence. I mean, I grew up playing soccer, so I guess I'm a little bit more nitpicky, but like it didn't really catch the cool parts about soccer that I like, and like also the scenes were very like still frame pass to you. Okay, now the camera's on your face, and then still frame pass to you. Like I would love to see like open play, kind of, because there's a lot of moving parts in like a single play of soccer. I mean, there's a
For
lot of
sure.
people on the field, but yeah, Blue Lock is good because it the whole premise of it is like focusing on one person kind of at a time. Like these are all strikers, so like it works out in that like it doesn't need to show everything going at once. But
I think the next time you're bored, you should check out Night in the Area. For what it was in 2010, it was great. Two seasons, open and close, a very heartfelt story, but a story that takes soccer seriously. And there's no suspension of disbelief as far as the mechanics of soccer go. I'd say it's as grounded as Haikyuu is. Like
okay,
that's as the
that's
envelope.
good.
Its story is very grounded.
Man, you're giving me so many shows to watch.
Yeah, that one you would probably like. I don't know if I could convince you to watch the swimming one or the
No,
pedal
I
one.
don't. Well,
They're
the paddle
guilty
one
pleasures.
maybe.
I don't necessarily recommend them.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that probably about wraps it up.
Yeah, we already went. We
Yeah,
already had.
so
So
we
that's
went on a
okay.
bit of a tangent at the end,
Yeah.
but
All right, Cass. I love you. I'll talk to you later, my guy.
love you too, bud. I'll see you later. Peace.